A whisper in the dark. The Galactic Senate Hall was always a place of debate, strategy, and planning. Its vast dome shimmered with the glow of holographic projections showing star maps, fleet movements, and territories controlled by various species. Senators from across the galaxy, tall, small, scaled, and feathered, filled the chamber. It was a place where power was displayed and decisions were made that shaped the lives of trillions. But today, the atmosphere was different. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog. Whispers spread among the delegates as they waited for the meeting to begin. Everyone had heard the rumors, but no one wanted to believe them. At the center of the room, Supreme Chancellor Kor, a towering figure with gleaming blue skin, stood behind a podium. His voice was deep and commanding, but even he seemed uneasy. "We have gathered here to discuss a growing threat. Reports from the outer sectors suggest unusual activity. Entire fleets have been destroyed, leaving no survivors. Planets have gone silent." The room erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, their voices a mix of anger and panic. "Which species dares to challenge the might of the Galactic Coalition?" barked General Taka, a hulking reptilian alien with scales that gleamed like steel. Could it be Likaneth raiders again? Or perhaps the hive swarms from the Scar Nebula? Speculated Senator Yvara, a slender avian creature with golden feathers. Before Kor could answer, the holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life. A live transmission was coming through. The room fell silent as the image of a trembling alien officer appeared on the screen. He was battered and bloodied, his uniform torn. Behind him, the ruins of a starship burned, casting flickering shadows across his face. "This is Captain Velker of the Krellin fleet," the officer began, his voice shaky but urgent. "Our fleet was ambushed in Sector 7. We didn't stand a chance. Their ships were faster, their weapons more advanced. They didn't even give us time to surrender." "Who attacked you?" Kor demanded, leaning forward. "Was it the Xanath? The hive swarms?" The officer hesitated, his eyes wide with terror. He seemed to struggle with the words, as if saying them out loud would make them more real. It wasn't them. It was humans. The word echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. Delegates turned to one another in disbelief. Humans? The same species that had been dismissed as weak and insignificant. The same species that had been excluded from the Coalition centuries ago for their primitive ways. "That's impossible," General Taka growled, slamming a clawed hand on his desk. "Humans are no threat. Their technology is outdated, their fleets are." "They're not outdated anymore," Velker interrupted, his voice rising in desperation. "Their ships are like nothing we've seen before. They move like shadows, striking with precision and leaving nothing behind. They fight like they have nothing to lose." A tense silence followed. Kor's expression darkened as he turned back to the delegates. "This could be a trick," he said, "a ploy to spread fear and divide us. Humans have always been reckless, but they do not have the means to challenge the Coalition." Velker's trembling voice cut through the skepticism. "You don't understand. They're not fighting for survival, they're fighting for revenge." The room erupted again, but this time the fear was palpable. Delegates argued, their voices filled with uncertainty. Could it be true? Had humanity risen from obscurity to become a force powerful enough to shake the galaxy? Suddenly, the transmission ended. The holographic display returned to the star maps, but the damage was done. The whisper of humanity's return spread like wildfire through the chamber. Even the most skeptical delegates couldn't ignore the possibility. In a dark corner of the hall, a lone figure watched the chaos unfold. She was cloaked in shadows, her face hidden beneath a hood. As the delegates argued, she tapped a small communicator on her wrist. "The message was delivered," she said in a low voice. "They're scared, just as you predicted." A cold, commanding voice responded through the communicator. "Good. Let them tremble. They'll know the truth soon enough." The figure stepped back into the shadows, disappearing from sight. Meanwhile, in the heart of the galaxy, a massive fleet was assembling. Ships unlike any the Coalition had ever seen floated silently in the void, their dark hulls absorbing all light. At the helm of the largest ship, a figure stood tall, gazing out at the stars. Their face was obscured by a helmet, but their presence radiated authority. "Commander Zero," an officer called out, saluting. "The fleet is ready." The figure nodded. Their voice was calm but laced with resolve. "They called us weak. They turned their backs on us. Now they will see what humanity is capable of." As the fleet began to move, the stars seemed to shudder, as if the universe itself sensed what was coming. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were ready for war, and the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity's hidden strength. Far from the bustling heart of the Galactic Coalition, a planet once dismissed as insignificant was now the epicenter of something unprecedented. Earth, shrouded in silence for centuries, had transformed into a fortress. Its skies were clear, but its orbit bristled with defense stations and cloaked ships. The stars above were no longer a source of wonder. They were a battlefield waiting to happen. Commander Zero stood in the war room of humanity's central command, a hidden base buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. The room hummed with activity as officers analyzed data, transmitted orders, and prepared for the next strike. The holographic map of the galaxy hovered in the center, red dots marking enemy positions, each one meticulously monitored. "Status report," Zero commanded, then a voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Mara, a sharp-eyed woman with a reputation for precision, stepped forward. The Krellin fleet was neutralized as planned. Their survivors delivered the message to the Coalition. "Our agents confirm that panic is spreading among their leadership." Zero nodded, their face obscured by a helmet that hid any trace of emotion. "Good. Fear is a weapon more powerful than any cannon. Let them think we're monsters." Behind them, an older man, General Langston, crossed his arms and let out a low chuckle. "You've turned the tables on them, Commander. For centuries, they thought they'd buried us, exiled humanity to the edge of space like some disease to be forgotten. Now, they'll wish they'd never underestimated us." Zero turned to Langston, their tone sharpening. "They didn't just exile us. They tried to erase us, blocked our trade, sabotaged our colonies, and left us to rot. But they forgot one thing: humans adapt." The room fell silent as the weight of Zero's words settled. Everyone in that chamber carried the scars of humanity's struggles. They were the descendants of a species forced to claw its way back from the brink, not through luck, but through sheer determination. The rise of a hidden power. The galaxy's records had long ignored humanity's resilience. After their exclusion from the Coalition, Earth had become a target for raiders and pirates. Yet every attack had only strengthened their resolve. The human spirit, tested in centuries of internal conflict, had found a new purpose: survival at any cost. In the shadows, humanity began to rebuild. Scientists and engineers pushed the boundaries of technology, creating ships faster and stronger than anything the Coalition had ever seen. Soldiers trained in harsh environments, mastering tactics that alien species couldn't comprehend. On the surface, Earth remained quiet, a forgotten relic. Beneath, it had become a powerhouse. A dangerous alliance. As Zero strategized in the war room, another meeting was unfolding on a distant moon in Coalition space. The Galactic Council had convened once more, this time under the shadow of a growing threat. Delegates from dozens of species crowded into a chamber buzzing with tension. Chancellor Kor addressed the council, his voice strained. "We must act now. Humanity is no longer the insignificant species we once dismissed. They've become a threat to all of us." General Tarka stamped his clawed fist on the table. "This is your fault, Kor. If you'd let us crush them centuries ago, this wouldn't be happening." "And risk a war then?" Senator Yvara countered, her golden feathers ruffling. "We didn't act because we thought them beneath us. Now we see the consequences." As the council bickered, a transmission cut through the noise. A grainy image of Commander Zero appeared, their helmet reflecting the room's lights. Leaders of the coalition, Zero's voice echoed, calm but cold. You speak of threats, of consequences, yet you fail to see the truth. Humanity didn't start this war. You did. The council members froze, their eyes fixed on the figure. Zero continued, their tone unrelenting. You pushed us to the edge, left us with nothing but our will to survive. Now you will see what that will has forged. You have two choices: surrender or face the consequences of your arrogance. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the council in stunned silence. For the first time in centuries, they felt vulnerable. The weight of history back on Earth, Zero stood alone in their quarters, gazing at an old photograph. It was a faded image of a family, smiling in a time before the coalition's betrayal. The war wasn't just about survival, it was about justice. A soft knock at the door pulled Zero from their thoughts. Mara entered, her expression hesitant. "Commander, the fleet is ready for the next phase. The coalition is mobilizing. They'll come at us with everything they have." Zero placed the photograph on the table and turned to face her. "Let them come. They'll find we're ready." As Mara left, Zero allowed themselves a rare moment of reflection. They knew the cost of war, the sacrifices that lay ahead. But humanity had been left with no choice. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a reckoning. The calm before the storm. In the void of space, humanity's fleets assembled. Massive warships, their surfaces black as night, drifted silently. Each ship bore the scars of Earth's history, a testament to the resilience of its people. As the first engines rolled to life, the stars seemed to dim. Humanity was no longer hiding. The galaxy, once so sure of its power, was about to witness the fury a species pushed too far. And in the center of it all, Commander Zero watched as the fleet prepared for war. "They thought we were weak," they murmured to themselves. "Now, we'll show them what strength truly looks like." The stage was set. The galaxy would never forget what happened next. First contact on the battlefield. The coalition's fleet drifted in the inky blackness of space, its shimmering hulls gleaming under the distant light of a dying star. The ships were a patchwork of designs, reflecting the diversity of the species within the coalition. From towering dreadnoughts with jagged, angular structures to sleek, bird-like cruisers, the armada was a visual testament to galactic power. On board the flagship Eternal Vow, Admiral Karith, a battle-hardened veteran with chitinous armor that glinted like polished obsidian, stood on the bridge, her multifaceted eyes scanning the tactical display. The sensors showed nothing. No movement, no signals, just silence. "This sector is supposed to be crawling with human forces," Karith growled, her mandibles clicking with frustration. "Where are they?" A junior officer hesitated before replying. "Admiral, our long-range scans show faint energy readings nearby. They could be cloaked." "Cloaked?" Karith scoffed. "Humans don't have cloaking technology." "They didn't have fleet-destroying warships either," muttered a voice at the back of the bridge. It was Captain Venla, a young officer whose antennae twitched nervously. He had heard the stories, the whispers of humanity's sudden rise. He didn't want to believe them, but the unease in his gut told him otherwise. "Enough speculation," Karith snapped. "Launch recon drones. If they're hiding, we'll flush them out." The trap is sprung. Moments later, dozens of drones zipped into the void, their sleek frames humming with energy. They spread out in a perfect formation, scanning every corner of the sector. For several tense minutes, the only sound on the Eternal Vow was the faint hum of the ship's systems. Then the alarms blared. "Multiple contacts," shouted an officer. "They've appeared behind us." The tactical display lit up with dozens of red blips, human ships emerging from the shadows like predators stalking their prey. The coalition fleet scrambled to react, their formations breaking in the face of the unexpected assault. "What in the stars?" Karith whispered, her usually unflappable demeanor cracking. The human ships were sleek and dark, their hulls absorbing light instead of reflecting it. They seemed to move with an unnatural grace, slipping between the coalition vessels with a precision that bordered on supernatural. "Admiral, they're targeting our engines," Venlo called out, "if they disable us." "They won't," Karith interrupted, forcing steel into her voice. "All ships, return fire. Focus on their lead vessel." But as the coalition ships opened fire, the humans responded in kind. Pulses of energy, sharp and precise, sliced through the void. Unlike the coalition's chaotic barrage, every human shot hit its mark. Engines sputtered, shields collapsed, and ships were left adrift. A lesson in tactics. On board the human flagship Revenant, Commander Zero observed the battle with a calm, calculating demeanor. The bridge was a hive of activity, but there was no panic. Every officer knew their role, their actions honed through rigorous training. "Status report," Zero ordered. "Our primary objective is achieved," Lieutenant Mara replied. "Their fleet is in disarray. We're disabling their propulsion systems as planned. Minimal casualties on our side." "Good," Zero said, then a voice cold. "No unnecessary destruction. Let them remember this encounter and let their fear grow." Back on the Eternal Vow, Karith watched in horror as her fleet fell apart. Human ships weaved through the chaos, their movements calculated to sow confusion. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. The humans didn't fight with brute force or overwhelming numbers. They fought with precision, exploiting every weakness, every hesitation. "Admiral, we can't hold this position," Venla shouted, desperation in his voice. "We need to retreat." "No," Karith growled. "We are the coalition. We don't run." But even as she spoke, her resolve wavered. The humans weren't just fighting to win, they were sending a message. The lone survivor. As the battle reached its peak, the Eternal Vow found itself surrounded. Human ships formed a ring around the flagship, their weapons trained on its vulnerable engines. Karith clenched her mandibles, knowing her ship's fate was sealed. "Admiral, incoming transmission," an officer said hesitantly. "Patch it through," Karith ordered, bracing herself. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Commander Zero's imposing figure. Their helmet glinted under the harsh lights of their bridge, obscuring their face but amplifying their aura of command. "Admiral Karith," Zero said, their voice calm but laced with an edge of menace. "This battle is over. Surrender your fleet or face the consequences." Karith's claws trembled with rage, but she knew the truth. Her fleet was broken. Resistance was futile. With a heavy heart, she gave the order. "This isn't the end," she hissed as she deactivated the transmission. "The galaxy will rally against you." On the Revenant, Zero watched the surrender unfold with the same cold detachment. "Let them rally," they said softly. "We're counting on it." A message delivered. The Coalition's defeat in Sector 7 sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Survivors spoke in hushed tones of the human fleet's efficiency, their terrifying technology, and their unyielding resolve. But what haunted them most was the way the humans fought. Not for territory, not for resources, but as if they were settling a score. In the halls of the Galactic Council, fear and confusion reigned. Delegates demanded answers, but none were forthcoming. The humans had made their move, and now the galaxy stood on the brink of a war unlike any it had ever seen. As the stars bore silent witness, one truth became clear. Humanity was no longer content to be ignored. They had entered the battlefield, and they intended to stay. The Galactic Coalition's gamble. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, normally a place of order and authority, was now a battlefield of its own. Senators from every corner of the galaxy shouted over one another, their voices a chaotic mix of anger, fear, and desperation. Holograms flickered across the room, replaying fragments of humanity's recent victory in Sector 7, disabled ships, precision strikes, and the chilling visage of Commander Zero. Supreme Chancellor Kor slammed his staff against the floor, the sound reverberating through the chamber like a thunderclap. Order. This council will come to order. Slowly, the voices subsided, but the tension remained thick. Kor's deep blue skin, usually a symbol of calm and wisdom, seemed to darken with frustration. He scanned the room, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the chaos of the moment. "The human threat is undeniable," he began, his voice steady but forceful. "We can no longer dismiss them as a minor species. They have proven themselves capable of challenging our fleets and destabilizing our alliances. If we do not act decisively, the coalition itself could fall." A divided council. Senator Ivara, her golden feathers ruffling with agitation, rose from her seat. "Chancellor, let us not forget why we excluded humanity in the first place. They are reckless, aggressive, and dangerous. Their actions now only confirm what we always feared. But we cannot face them divided. We must stand as one." Her words sparked murmurs of agreement, but not everyone was convinced. General Taka, the reptilian warlord, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Stand as one. With whom? The same species that betrayed us in the past. We've spent centuries fighting amongst ourselves. Do you truly believe we can unify against a common enemy now?" Kor raised a hand to silence the debate. "Whether we trust one another or not, humanity has forced our hand. We must form an alliance, even if it is uneasy. The question is, how do we fight a species that has turned war into an art form?" The chamber fell silent as the weight of Kor's words settled over the delegates. It wasn't just the humans' technology that terrified them. It was their strategy, their precision, and their ability to exploit weaknesses with ruthless efficiency. The coalition's gamble. As the council deliberated, a plan began to take shape. The coalition would assemble the largest fleet in its history, combining the strengths of every member species. From the brute strength of the Krellan dreadnoughts to the agility of the avian starfighters, every available resource would be pooled into a single, overwhelming force. But there was more to the plan than sheer firepower. Espionage and sabotage would play a key role. Spies were dispatched to infiltrate humanity's ranks, tasked with uncovering the secrets of their sudden rise. Were they using stolen technology? Did they have unknown allies? The coalition needed answers, and they needed them fast. Amid the discussions, an unexpected voice spoke up. Ambassador Vurin, a quiet figure from a small, neutral planet, addressed the council. "If we fight humanity the way we fought each other, we will lose. They have studied us, learned from us, and surpassed us. To defeat them, we must think as they do." "And what do you propose?" Taka sneered. "That we surrender." "No," Viren replied, their tone calm but firm. "I propose we fight them not with brute force, but with understanding. Learn their tactics. Study their history. They have fought wars amongst themselves for millennia. Somewhere in their past lies the key to defeating them." Seeds of distrust. Even as the coalition worked to assemble its forces, cracks began to show in their fragile unity. Old grudges resurfaced, and some species saw the crisis as an opportunity to settle scores under the guise of cooperation. Supplies meant for the war effort went missing. Accusations of sabotage flew across the council chamber. Commander Teriak, a wolf-like creature with sharp eyes and an even sharper tongue, voiced what many were thinking. "The humans won't need to destroy us. We'll tear ourselves apart before they even arrive." Despite the growing tension, the coalition pressed forward. They knew the humans would not wait for them to unite. Every moment of delay only strengthened humanity's position. A chilling revelation. As spies infiltrated humanity's outer defenses, one of them, a chameleon-like alien named Zirek, managed to slip aboard a human transport ship. What he discovered had sent shockwaves through the coalition. Hidden deep within the transport's cargo bay were components of a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Massive fusion cores capable of unleashing destruction on an unimaginable scale. Even more chilling was the fact that these cores were only a fraction of what humanity was building. They were preparing for total war, and their intent was clear: annihilation, not conquest. When Zirek's report reached the council, panic erupted once more. "They mean to destroy us completely," Yuvara cried. "This isn't a war for survival, it's extermination." Kor raised his voice above the chaos. "Then we must strike first. Before their preparations are complete, we will launch an assault on their stronghold. If we fail, there will be no second chance." The coming storm. The Coalition's fleet began to gather near the edge of human space, its size dwarfing anything seen in galactic history. Delegates watched from their homeworlds, their hope mingled with fear. The Coalition had bet everything on this gamble. Victory would mean survival, but defeat would spell the end. As the fleet prepared for its assault, humanity remained silent. No transmissions, no warnings. The quiet was unnerving, a stark contrast to the chaos of the Coalition's preparations. It was as if the humans were waiting for their moment, knowing that the galaxy was walking into their trap. In the shadows of Earth's hidden command center, Commander Zero watched the Coalition's movements with icy precision. "They're coming," Mara reported, "just as you predicted." Zero's voice was calm, almost indifferent. "Let them. The Coalition thinks this is their war to win. They don't realize it's ours to end." The stage was set. The Coalition had taken their gamble, but humanity held the cards. As the stars bore silent witness, the galaxy braced for the storm that was about to engulf it. Humanity's unveiling. The Coalition's fleet hung at the edge of human space like a vast, glittering wall of doom. Thousands of ships, representing dozens of species, formed a formidable armada. But for all their strength, unease rippled through the ranks. Every captain, every soldier, and every admiral could feel it, the ominous silence from humanity's side. No counter-fleet appeared. No transmissions were intercepted. Humanity remained a ghost in the void. Admiral Karith of the Eternal Vow, now serving as one of the Coalition's senior strategists, paced the command deck of her dreadnought. "Where are they?" she muttered, her mandibles clicking in frustration. "They have to know we're here." "Perhaps they're running scared," Captain Venla suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. "No," Karith replied, her eyes fixed on the void. "Humans don't run. They're waiting, watching, and when they strike, it will be where we least expect." Her words proved prophetic. The shadow emerges. Without warning, the sensors of every Coalition ship lit up like fireflies. Hundreds, no, thousands, of human ships decloaked simultaneously, surrounding the Coalition fleet in a perfect sphere. The human vessels were sleek and dark, their hulls absorbing the light of distant stars. It was as if the void itself had come alive. Alarms blared across the Coalition armada as officers scrambled to make sense of the sudden appearance. How did they get so close without detection? An officer cried out on the Eternal Vow. "They were already here," Karith murmured, her voice filled with a mix of awe and dread. "They were waiting for us." On board the human flagship Revenant, Commander Zero watched the Coalition's panic unfold on a holographic display. Their officers stood at attention, their faces calm and focused. "Their formation is weak," Mara reported. "They weren't expecting an ambush." "Of course they weren't," Zero replied. "They think like conquerors, not survivors. Begin Phase 1. A terrifying display. The first strike came not in the form of weapons fire, but in a coordinated attack on the Coalition's communications. Human ships unleashed an electromagnetic pulse, disabling the Coalition's long-range transmitters. Within moments, their fleet was blind and deaf, cut off from command and unable to coordinate. "What's happening?" Kor demanded from the Coalition's command ship. "Why can't we reach the other sectors?" "It's the humans," his communications officer stammered. "They've jowned us completely. We're isolated." Panic began to set in among the Coalition ranks. Ships fired blindly, their weapons scorching the void but hitting nothing. Meanwhile, the human fleet moved with eerie precision, disabling engines and shields without delivering killing blows. It was a calculated move, designed not to destroy, but to demoralize. "They're toying with us," Karith realized, gripping the edge of her console. "They want us to see how outmatched we are." The revelation. As the coalition struggled to regroup, a massive hologram appeared above the battlefield. It was Commander Zero, their helmeted figure imposing and unyielding. "Coalition forces," Zero began, their voice calm but cutting. "This is not a war you can win. You came here thinking humanity was weak, fractured, and unprepared. But you were wrong." As Zero spoke, human ships activated their weapon systems, illuminating the void with a chilling display of power. Massive cannons glowed with energy, capable of tearing through entire fleets. And yet, none of them fired. "Observe," Zero continued. "This is not the humanity you remember. We have grown stronger in your absence. We have built what you could not. And we fight not for conquest, but for survival." On the eternal vow, Karith felt a chill run down her spine. The human fleet was larger than she'd imagined, its technology far beyond anything the Coalition had anticipated. But what truly unsettled her was the discipline, the cold efficiency with which humanity operated. "They're showing us mercy," Venlor whispered. "They could destroy us, but they're holding back." Karith's mandibles tightened. "That's not mercy. That's a warning." The spy's discovery. As the battle unfolded, the Coalition's lone spy, Zirek, was still hidden aboard the human transport he had infiltrated. What he found was even more alarming than the weapons on display. Deep within the transport's hold, he discovered vast databanks filled with records, blueprints for advanced technology, simulations of Coalition weaknesses, and detailed psychological profiles of every major galactic species. Zirek's heart sank as he realized the truth. Humanity had been studying the Coalition for centuries, preparing for this exact moment. They hadn't just adapted, they had evolved, turning the Coalition's strengths into weaknesses and their arrogance into fuel. Before Zirek could escape with his findings, he was discovered by human security forces. As they dragged him to the bridge of the Revenant, he found himself face to face with Commander Zero. "Why?" Zirek demanded, his voice trembling. "Why are you doing this? You could have negotiated, found peace." Zero's helmet tilted slightly, as if considering the question. "Peace," they echoed. "Peace is a luxury denied to those who are forgotten. You turned your backs on us. This is not revenge, Zirek. It's survival." With a nod from Zero, Zirek was escorted off the bridge, his fate uncertain. The turning point. As the Coalition fleet began to crumble under the weight of its own disorganization, Kora made a desperate decision. "All ships, fall back," he ordered. "We can't win this. Regroup and prepare for a counterattack." But as the Coalition ships attempted to retreat, the human fleet didn't pursue. Instead, they remained in formation, their weapons silent but poised. On the Revenant, Zero watched the Coalition retreat with satisfaction. "They'll regroup and come at us again," Mara said. "Of course they will," Zero replied. "That's what we're counting on. Let them think they still have a chance. The longer they hesitate, the stronger we become." As the human fleet faded back into the shadows, one thing was clear. This was no longer a war for territory or resources. It was a war for the soul of the galaxy, and humanity had just shown its hand. The Coalition now faced an enemy that was not only stronger, but far more prepared than they could have ever imagined. The final stand. The Coalition's battered fleet limped back to its staging grounds, a remote star system far from human-controlled space. What had been an armada of dominance was now a shadow of its former self, scarred and disorganized. Crews worked tirelessly to repair ships, but the wounds were more than physical. Fear had seeped into the Coalition's ranks. In the Coalition War Council, the mood was grim. Holograms of the remaining fleet leaders flickered around a circular table, their faces marked by exhaustion and doubt. Supreme Chancellor Kor presided over the meeting, his usual commanding presence dulled by the weight of failure. "We cannot sustain another loss like this," Kor began, his voice heavy. "Our forces are scattered, morale is crumbling, and humanity is stronger than we ever imagined. But we have no choice. If we don't strike now, they will crush us." A desperate plan. General Taka leaned forward, his reptilian eyes blazing with frustration. "We must attack their homeworld. Earth is their heart, their foundation. If we destroy it, we destroy their will to fight." "And how do you propose we reach Earth?" Senator Yuvara countered, her golden feathers ruffling. "Their fleets are impenetrable, their defenses unmatched. We'd never make it past their outer systems." Silence filled the room as the council grappled with the reality of their situation. Finally, Ambassador Viren spoke, their voice calm and deliberate. "We cannot outfight them, but we can outmaneuver them. Humanity's strength lies in their precision, their ability to control the battlefield. We must force them into chaos, draw them away from Earth and into a trap." The council leaned in as Viren outlined the plan. A small, decoy fleet would feign an attack on a distant human outpost, drawing their forces away from the core systems. Meanwhile, a covert strike team would infiltrate Earth's defenses and deploy a weapon powerful enough to destroy the planet's infrastructure, leaving humanity vulnerable. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. The infiltration begins. The Coalition's strike team, composed of the galaxy's most skilled operatives, embarked on their mission with quiet resolve. Zirek, the chameleon-like spy who had survived his capture, was among them. His knowledge of humanity's tactics and technology made him an invaluable asset, but the scars of his encounter with Commander Zero weighed heavily on him. As the team approached Earth, they marveled at its transformation. What had once been a vibrant, blue-green world was now encircled by massive orbital stations and defense platforms. The planet's surface was dotted with fortified cities and sprawling industrial complexes, all connected by a network of energy grids. "This isn't a homeworld," one operative whispered. "It's a fortress." Using stolen human technology, the team slipped past Earth's defenses and landed on the planet's surface. Their objective was clear: reach the energy grid's central hub and plant a device that would overload the system, plunging the planet into darkness. The battle in the shadows. As the strike team moved through Earth's industrial zones, they encountered resistance, human soldiers who fought with relentless determination. Unlike the Coalition's forces, these soldiers were not driven by orders or fear. They fought for something deeper, something the operatives couldn't fully understand. Zirek found himself face to face with one of these soldiers, a young man with scars that told stories of battles hard fought. The human's eyes burned with an intensity that unnerved Zirek. "Why do you fight like this?" Zirek asked, his voice trembling. "Why not surrender and spare yourselves?" The soldier didn't hesitate. "Because we've already lost everything before. We know what it means to start over, to build from nothing. You can't take that from us." Before Zirek could reply, the soldier raised his weapon, but instead of firing, he hesitated. "Leave this planet," the soldier said softly. "If you stay, you won't survive." The decoy unravels. Meanwhile, the Coalition's decoy fleet engaged humanity's outer defenses. At first, the ruse seemed to work. Human ships mobilized to intercept the threat, leaving Earth's defenses momentarily weakened. But as the battle unfolded, it became clear that humanity was one step ahead. Commander Zero, watching from the bridge of the Revenant, analyzed the Coalition's movements with icy precision. "This is a distraction," they concluded. "Their real target is Earth." "Should we recall our fleets?" Mara asked. Zero shook their head. "No, they think they're clever, but they've underestimated us again. Activate the Sentinel Protocol." The trap is sprung. Back on Earth, the strike team reached the energy grid's central hub. They worked quickly to on the device, but as they activated it, alarms blared throughout the facility. Massive doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. What's happening? One operative shouted. Zirek's heart sank as he realized the truth. It's a trap. Human soldiers poured into the facility, led by none other than Commander Zero. The strike team fought valiantly, but they were no match for humanity's relentless forces. One by one, they fell, until only Zirek remained. Zero approached him, their helmet reflecting the chaos around them. You thought you could outthink us, they said, their voice calm but cutting. But we've been preparing for this moment for centuries. You're not the first to underestimate humanity, and you won't be the last. The coalition's collapse. As news of the failed infiltration reached the coalition's leaders, despair set in. Their fleets were scattered, their operatives captured or killed. Humanity's dominance was no longer a question, it was a certainty. On the Eternal Vow, Karith watched the final moments of the decoy battle on her tactical display. Human ships moved with the precision of a scalpel, dismantling the coalition's forces piece by piece. They've beaten us, Venna said quietly. There's nothing left. Karith clenched her mandibles, her pride warring with her fear. Not yet, she said, though even she didn't believe her own words. A warning delivered. With the coalition in shambles, Commander Zero broadcasted a message across the galaxy. Their helmeted figure loomed over every screen, their voice steady and unyielding. This war could have been avoided. You pushed us to the edge, and now you see the consequences. Humanity does not seek conquest. We seek survival. But if you threaten us again, we will end you. The message was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and it had paid the price. But the war was not over yet, and the final confrontation loomed on the horizon.